Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let me introduce myself. I'm Pramod. I'm an advanced software engineer with expertise in C Sharp, .NET, and Azure technologies. These are my LinkedIn and the Twitter profiles. Let me let me know about yourself in the comment section. And the reason why I started this YouTube channel is every day I use lot of free content over internet through blogs, documentations, and other YouTube videos. So I wanted to give something back to community. So whatever concepts that I learn, technical concepts, I'll make a video on all on those concepts so that it can help others. Having said that, let's start with today's episode. In today's episode, let's discuss about SQL Server Database Project, which was introduced as part of Visual Studio 2022. This is the SQL Server Database Project in .NET. It is a .NET Core project. So we'll see how to create queries for the data. We'll see how to create database queries and also deploy this into an SQL Server database, which would create the required tables and the stored procedures in a very easy way. So to learn that, let's consider this database, which is a blog post database where there is a table called blog, which contains like the ID, the URL, and the rating columns. And there's another table called the post table, which contains the details about the post, like the ID, title, content, and the blog ID. So the blog ID is the foreign key from the blog table. So a blog can have multiple posts. So it's like a one to many relationship. So this simple database with two tables, let's try to create. Let's see how easy it is to create using SQL Server Database Project. Let me launch the Visual Studio. Let me click on create a new project. So here, if you can see, it's already selected, but from this drop down, if we select SQL with all platforms selected, the only option we get is this SQL Server Database Project. Let me select this, click on next. Let me change the location where the solution would be saved. Let me select content and create a new folder called source and select this folder. Let me give the project name as blog post database project. Give the solution name as maybe blog post app. Let me click on create. Yeah, as you can see now the project is created and the solution is launched. So this is the blog post app, the solution that we created, and which contains the only one project, that is a blog post database project. As you can see, it is empty. It just has references, properties. It doesn't have anything. So let's see now how to create this database. I mean, create the queries for this database. As we can see, we just need two tables for this, and there's one foreign key relationship between blog and post table. So let me start with the blog table. So before that, let's organize it. So let's create some folders so that our queries are well organized. So I'll create First, the schema, I'll just create a folder called DBO, and inside this, I'll create 3 tables. One for tables, and the another one called for stored procedures. This is just to keep things organized, and this is not mandatory to create these folders actually. Let me create one more folder for views, even though we are not going to use these in this episode. In the future videos, we'll see all these things. And along with that, let me also create a folder called publish profiles. I'll explain about it in this video soon. Yeah, so now we'll have to create the block tables. So inside the tables folder, I'll right click and say add and select table. I'll say the table name as block, click add. So if you can see, let me just unpin this. Yeah, if you can see now, this is the block table. It gives this graphical display, and also below there is a TSQL window where it shows the query for this table. Since there's a table, we can see, there is already a create table query already, and it has also considered one of the ID column as the primary key. So this is the design. So it's a very simple interface to create tables. So let's go back to this. As we have already seen ID, and we need 2 more columns called URL and rating. ID is of type int, so it is already there. So let me add a column called URL. It would be of type envarchar 50. Maybe I'll change it to 100, and I'll not allow nulls. So as you can see, as I kept updating this design, it also is synchronizing this TSQL. It is adding the necessary query. So the same way, let me add the rating column as well. It is of type int, and let's allow null for this. Yes. So let me say this. Let's make this ID like gets let's make it an identity column. So I'll show you how to make it here through the properties window. I'll select this column, right click, select properties, which is here, and in the identity specification, I'll make it as true. So increment is 1, seed is 1. So and I'll just come here and save it. You can see the only thing that changed is it just added this identity keyword. That is all we need, as we know. So if we just go back and see here, this is the block table we wanted to create, which has 3 columns: ID, URL, and rating. ID is of type int, URL is of type envarchar 100 I have kept, rating I have kept it as int. Rating also have kept, I'm allowing null for the rating. So pretty much we are done with this table. So let me go here, go to Solution Explorer, and right click on tables and say add another table. We'll call this as post table. I'll click on add. Similarly, we need three more columns: title, content, and blog id. Let me add those. Title, also we can give it till 200, I would say. Let's not allow null for this as well. Let's add content. As you know, content of the post can be very huge, so let's consider it as text for now. Let's not allow null for these things, and let's make this identity again. I'll, as I have shown in the previous, I mean, while creating the block table, I'll not again go in that way. I'll just add identity keyword here to make it an identity column. And let me add the relationship between the blog and the post table through this blog id. It's the blog id column. This should be of type int. We cannot allow null for this, and we need that foreign key relationship. Let me show you how to add that foreign key relationship. So blog id is selected. On this foreign keys, I'll right click, add new foreign key post table to table. I'll change it to blog. Click on enter. It generates the required query here, and I'll just make the necessary changes. Foreign key, the column name in the post table, it is blog id. So I'll change it to blog id here. The to table, it has a relationship with the block table, so let me change it to table has to be blog, and the column name is id. Yes. So now we have created that relationship between the blog and the post table. So let me save this. So if I go back to this, now this entire database with this two table structure is ready. So now let me first right click on the solution and build solution. Let me check the status of the build. Build is success. Build is succeeded. Actually, let me rebuild it just to show. Yeah, build is successful. Now, now we have the table structure ready. Now we'll see how we can publish it. Publish it in the sense publish to the database so that these queries are run and the database would be created. And before that, let me just show what with this design that we created these tables, what these files contain. Actually, these files, let me open in Notepad++. Yeah, it is just a SQL file with the required query. Okay, now let me right click on this project and click publish. So it creates this published data. It opens up this published database window. So let's first create a profile. Profile is something where it saves all the information related to the database, so that in the future, whenever we want to run any other queries, we can just select this profile and publish. So let me click on create profile and database connection. Let me edit it. So now let me click on cancel for now. Let me click on cancel here as well. So we, in this view section, we have something called server explorer. Let me click on that. This is where, not the server explorer, SQL server object explorer. Yeah. So this is where we get this Microsoft Access DB, local DB. So let's publish our database blog post database project to this local DB first. So to do that, we need the connection string of that. So let me get that connection string from the properties section. Let me copy this and let me right click on this and try to publish it again. And I would say create profile again. The target database connection, let me click on edit and go here. Let me delete it and paste whatever I have copied. Let me test connection. It's successful. Let me click on OK. It's updated. Let me click on OK. And database name would be the name that it would create once I publish this. So let me give it as blog post db. I'll leave the script name as is. Click on save profile. I'll click on save profile as, and I'll select this publish profile folder that we created. Here I would say blog post maybe I'll change it as access loc access db dot publish. Let me save it. So with these things, let me click on publish. Anyway, it is saved. Before that, let me click on cancel and just show the existing databases. We don't have this blog post database project yet, so let me again click on publish. This time I would say load profile and select the profile that we just saved, and then I'll say publish. As you can see the status here, it is creating the publish preview. The other important thing that this SQL database project does is it validates the queries that we have created. And also in the further, if I make some changes to this database, it it checks what was executed prior and only executes the required queries. It generates only the required necessary queries and executes only those queries on the database. As you can see now, it did all these steps, like it creating published preview, creating database script, it executed, and the status is completed. So let me go back to this SQL Server Object Explorer, and let me just refresh this and expand again. And as you can see now, this blog post database is created. So expand again, table section. We can see these two tables are also created. So let me say view data. It would be empty, but it has the columns that we created. Same way, post, it has the columns that we created. So similarly, we can also publish this to any of the SQL database, even Azure SQL database or the locally hosted SQL Server database. Now let's deploy this blog post database project to SQL server. I have the SQL server running as a Docker instance. Let me show that. Yeah, as you can see, this is the Docker container that I have. I'll start it. It started, and we can connect to it through the SQL Server Management Studio. Let me connect to it. I'll enter the password. Yeah, it is connected. And let me see the databases that we have. We don't have the blog post database here. And let me copy the connection string. I would require it later. So, okay, I don't have the password saved here. Let me add it again and save that. I think it not have the password here. Okay, we add the password again. And say remember, come back to connection string. It has it this time. I'll copy this. Say connect. Yeah, now let's create a publish profile for this. We click on publish profiles and say add. I think it has to be through the publish window. Let me right click on this project and click on publish. Click on edit. I'll go to connection string and paste the connection string that I copied. We'll say test connection. It is successful. Let me click on apply and click on OK. Let me change the database name to blog post db and change the publish script name to blog post SQL database. And if I say save profile as, and I'll come here, blog post, I'll name it as blog post SQL database project. Let's say blog post SQL database. I'll save it. Then let me click on publish. Okay, in this data tools operations window, we can see it actually failed. And let's see the error what we got. It says a project which specifies SQL Server 2025 or Azure SQL database managed instance in the target platform cannot be published to SQL Server 2022. Okay, so let me check the container that I am running. This image is of SQL Server 2022. And let me check what is selected here. Go to properties. Okay, if you can see here, target platform is SQL Server 2025. So that is the reason it is failing. So let me select the target platform as SQL Server 2022. Let me save it. Let me build and publish. Build is successful. I click on publish, load the profile, SQL database profile I'll select, then I'll click on publish. You can see it is creating the publish preview here. Okay, now it created database script and it also executed, published, completed successfully. Now let me go back to this SQL Server Management Studio and let me refresh it, expand databases. Now, as you can see, the blog post database is created. Let me expand tables to see. Yeah, it contains these two tables as well. And let me expand dbo.post to see whether that foreign key constraints are there. As you can see, blog ID column is a foreign key. Yeah. Then next will let me also create a folder for. Let's do one final thing as part of this video, that is to add a post deploy script. What this post deploy script does is, as soon as the queries for creating the tables or the stored procedures are run, it runs this post deploy script. And mostly we would there are a few metadata tables that we want to populate. Those things will populate, will those queries will add as part of the post deploy script. So let me add a post deploy script here. Select the script, select post deploy script. I'll name it as post deploy dot populate blog posts. Click on add. Yeah, this is the post deploy script. So here I'll just have an if condition. If select count of star dpo dot blog equal to 0, only if the table is empty I'll add this, I'll run this thing. So for now I'll add the insert statement here. Insert into dvo.blog blog has a URL, comma, rating, values, and say https www.com/promote/article/. Similarly, I'll add one more. /promotes/2. Let me save this. Now let's build this project. Yeah, let me try to publish. I'll load the profile which I have already saved. I'll go with the SQL DB profile. Open that. Then I'll click on publish. We got an error. So let me check what is the error. Oh, there are more columns in insert statement than the value specified. Did we miss something in the script? Let me open the script. Look like it's already open. Yes. Okay, I didn't give the rating. Actually, I missed to give the rating. We add the rating back. And let me build it again. Let me publish. Load the profile. Click on publish. You see now the publish got successfully completed. Publish completed successfully. I have this SQL Server Management Studio already open, and I have the DB already created here. Let me refresh this. Expand the tables. Let me view the data for blocks table. As you can see, those two entities have been created here already. Yeah, so this is how we can use the post deploy scripts to populate any of the metadata tables that we would require for the application. Yes, this is pretty much all that I wanted to cover as part of this video, where we got to know about this SQL database project that we have in the Visual Studio. Through that, we can create the required tables easily using the GUI or the even the queries, that query window that we get. And then we have this publish profiles that we can create so that they save the information about the database. So any in the further, if you want to update any of the tables, we can just select that profile and publish, so that it it, it knows which database to update, where the database is. And we also saw about the deploy scripts, that is a post deploy script, how we can create that and how it would create the required it would run the queries after the publish is done, I mean after the tables have been created. So yeah, let me know your thoughts about this video in the comment section. Let me know if you have any doubts, or if you have used let me know if you use this to create the database whenever you in your projects, and if there are anything else new that you have tried with it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.